Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be quite simple. I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in January, and I had a very good reading month. I read a grand total of 7 books, and most of them are 4-star reads, and I believe there's 2 5-star reads. I just want to jump right in, so let's go. The first book that I read in the month of January is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. So this is actually one of my 5-star rated reads that I read this month, and yeah, it was my first read of the month of the year, and I absolutely loved it. I was on vacation when I started and finished this book, and I absolutely loved it. So this book is set in a world much like ours, except for the fact that on the day that you die, you will get a call from this company called Deathcast, and they're basically telling you, hey, you're gonna die in the next 24 hours. They don't know how, they don't know why, they're just giving you a warning that you are going to die within the next 24 hours, so you may want to get everything arranged before you pass away. Because people know that they are going to die in this universe, they have also been accumulated with different things to help them with their passing. One of them is called the Last Friend app, and this is an app where you basically meet online to basically meet your last friend on the day that you're gonna die. And so this story follows Mateo and Rufus as they meet on the Last Friend app. It is so good. I absolutely love this book. It was breathtaking, and even though they do meet in like one day and like connect together, and like people are like, it's not realistic that they meet in one day, but I think it is in the fact that this is not our world. It is a different world. It's like ours, but it's different. So because it is different, that's why I feel that this is legitimate and that their friendship is real, because they do have that death situation knowing, hey, I need to connect with this person as quickly and fast as possible because they may be the last person that I talk to ever in my life. So yeah, I absolutely adored this book and I totally recommend it. If you're on the fence about it, just go into it. I absolutely loved it. The next book that I read in the month of January is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. I actually read it this month with a few of my friends for our book club that we occasionally get together for, and this was actually my request, so I was very shocked that my book got picked, but I absolutely love this book. This is a 4-star rated read. It wasn't a 5-star just because there were certain instances in this high school setting of a book that didn't seem all that realistic to me because I went to high school myself and a bunch of these things wouldn't happen. But I originally wanted to read this book because Emma Books just raves about it all the time and she absolutely loves it, so I thought I had to check it out. And I also heard that one of her main characters does have Asperger's, and I am in college to become a special education teacher, so I thought that, I don't know, I'd find this character so enlightening for me. And if you did not know what this book is about, it's basically there's this girl named Lucy in this school who is basically casted out because she accuses these boys of raping her. And so she moves to a different town, and so a new girl named Grace ends up actually moving into the house that she moved out of, and she teams up with a girl named Erin who has Asperger's and a girl named Rosina who is a lesbian, and they all come together to try and maybe serve justice for what happened to Lucy. And this ends up sparking a whole revolution of the girls in their school and for them to stand up for how they have been treated by guys. And I thought it was such an impactful story, especially in the circumstances we are now in right now. And yes, some of these things were quite believable, but I felt like the dialogue in this, I don't know, there'd be a lot of girls out there who I think wouldn't feel all that comfortable with meeting in a room and talking about rape and sex and all that stuff. So because of that, I did have to dock a star, but nevertheless, I totally enjoyed this book. The next book that I read is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. So I loved this book. I loved Everything by Nicola Yoon, and I enjoyed watching the movie as well. And I originally wanted to read this book because I did read They Both Die at the End, which takes place in the span of one day. I forgot to tell you all that. Yeah, it takes within the span of one day. And so I heard that many people who loved The Sun Is Also a Star also loved They Both Die at the End, so I was like, I should probably pick this up if I really enjoyed They Both Die at the End. I did enjoy this book. I did not give it a full 5-star rating just because there's circumstances in this book that I don't think would happen in real life. And this one isn't set in a fictional setting, that's what I'm saying. The other one, They Both Die at the End, I feel like since it takes a span of one day, in a world that isn't ours, I felt that was legitimate and I totally understood that. But in this one, it's a contemporary, and I loved it. I thought that the two main characters were great together, but I don't know, a lot of the things that happened in this book I don't feel like could actually happen all in one day. But basically, if you did not know what this book is about, we have our main character named Natasha, and when this book starts, she and her family are going to be deported to Jamaica that night. Then we have our other main character named Daniel, who is having some conflicting feelings about his Asian American background and labels being placed on him. He's just trying to get into college, but he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life because his parents think they have everything set out for him. But then on this day in New York City, these two meet and kind of sparks from there. I did love in this book, obviously, the cover. I really enjoyed the short chapters. These chapters aren't really long, and I actually like books with short chapters. It's a normal sized book in my opinion. I think it's 300 something pages, or maybe on the shorter side of 400. I also loved in this book how we didn't get just the point of view of Natasha and Daniel. We also got some points of views of people they bump into during their whole day. And I totally recommend this book if you're into a cute contemporary romance novel. The next book that I read this month, or listened to this month, is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Basically, if you do not know what this book is about, it's kind of like The Breakfast Club, but with murder involved. Our four narrators are sent to detention at the beginning of this novel along with an extra student, and that student ends up dead. And they are being accused of murder, and they're basically being thrown into the public. And I absolutely loved this audiobook. I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars just because we do have that high school setting that I didn't really seem all that believable. There were some instances where I was like, that wouldn't happen in real life. Because it is a contemporary novel, so it's not a fantasy thing. We're not set in another universe. There were instances where I was like, no one would actually say that in high school, but okay. But nevertheless, I really enjoyed this book. The audiobook was really fantastic. If you want to know my thoughts on the audio part of the audiobook, I will link my audiobook video down below for y'all. I believe it's the last book that I talk about, so y'all can maybe like skip to the end for that. I haven't read like a murder book in a while, so it was a great refresher for me. The next book that I read in January is Make Me Burn by Tiffany Roberts. And this is actually part of a companion fantasy romance series called The Isle of the Forgotten. And also the narrator, Tiffany Roberts, is actually a wife and husband duo writing together, which I thought was very interesting and kind of cute. This is a fantasy romance novel, if you cannot tell by the cover. I am an absolute sucker for fantasy romance books. I love the fantasy aspect. I love the forbidden romance, usually a part of fantasy romance books. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because I read it almost in one sitting. If I didn't have to go to class, I would have read it all in one sitting. But basically, we just have this demon. I cannot pronounce his name, so please don't ask me to. It starts with an M. He ends up being trapped on this island, and there are a bunch of other evil beings that live on this island. It's basically a prison. All the magic is sucked out of these evil magic beings, and they're basically sent to this prison on an island. And on this island, he meets this woman that he is absolutely entranced with, and she basically has to figure out for herself if she's willing to be with this demon. And he's not like a demon. He looks like a man. He just has horns and wings and claws. But I loved it. There is mature content, so if you're not into that, don't read this book. I got it on my Kindle app for I believe $1.99 or $2.99 because I've been putting this book on my wish list for a while. Because usually when I go on Amazon for my Kindle books, I usually just download free books so I don't have to pay for anything because there are free books out there. I was just like, hey, I haven't bought a book in a long time, why not buy a $2 book? You know what I mean? I was like totally engrossed by this story. I wanted to know what happened and happened. Like, I needed to know what happened in this book. Next, I read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling with illustrations by Jim Kay. So I love Harry Potter, if you didn't know. I grew up with the movies. Yeah, I watched the movies before I read the books just because the books were always checked out in my school library, so I never read them until, I believe, middle school, but I still loved them in middle school. I haven't reread this book in a while, so I wanted to, and I got all 3 illustrated editions for Christmas this year, and I think that I am wanting to read an illustrated edition once in January, once in February, and once in March. So I did the January one, and I really enjoyed rereading this book. I loved looking at all of the artwork because some of it is absolutely gorgeous. You need to go out and buy this book so you can just stare at the artwork all day. That's what I did. And I just basically read 1 or 2 chapters a day for like the duration of January, and I really enjoyed it. I recommend it. It like helps you preserve Harry Potter and basically makes it go out longer, and I really enjoyed rereading this story. And the last book that I read in January is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I actually finished this book no less than an hour ago. And this book I felt was like such a punch in the chest and very difficult to read at points, but I did give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I think the reason why I didn't give it that full 5-star was sometimes the dialogue was very hard to read because our main character, when she goes into flashbacks and she has dialogue with someone, quotation marks are not put in places, and so it was kind of hard to figure out what was being spoken and what was being thought, and just the subject matter got me in the feels sometimes. I had to put the book down. It took me like a week to read this book, which is very rare. I like read a book in 2 days or 3. It just like struck home for me. I really wanted to read this book because I've been hearing nothing but good things about the Hulu TV series, and I'm probably gonna watch it tomorrow, to be honest with you, once I finish classes or something. Oh, actually, fun fact. So I've actually had this book, I believe, since my sophomore year of high school, so 3-4 years ago I got this book, and it is because we got this reading list of, I believe, 4 or 3 books that we got to choose from to read as a required reading for class, and this like seemed like the most girly one because I went to the store and I like looked at all the covers, and this was the time when I only read YA. Like, I only read The Hunger Games and Harry Potter and Percy Jackson over and over and over again. I mean, that's fun, but like I wasn't like diverse in my reads at all yet. And so I picked up this book just because there was a woman with a dress on the cover. I knew nothing about it, to be honest with you. And I basically opened the book. I think I read the first chapter or like maybe the first page, and right when I saw the word sex, I immediately was like, nope. No. Because little sophomore Averie was petrified of the word sex. And I later learned, even after I dropped this book and I picked up another book on the reading list, which I don't even remember what it was about. Anyway, but even like after I didn't read the book, I later found out that this book is basically about sex. So it would have not been a good read for me anyway, even if I just like pushed through. Little sophomore Averie would have been like cringing in her seat the whole time because of the instances that happen in this book. But this is set in a dystopian society, so it kind of struck me home in the feeling like, oh my god, like to just think if a few things were different in our lives right now, this could actually happen to people if like we wanted it to, and it just freaked me out. We follow our main character named Offred, and basically she is called a handmaiden, and people in the society are basically castes, and you wear specific clothing based on what caste you're in, and she is a handmaiden, and all the handmaidens in the society are the only women in the society who have viable eggs and are able to reproduce. So these women are basically taken and forced to breed with men who already have wives so that couple can have children, and they're basically raped and their babies are stolen from them. And that is how society is now, because a plague has basically wiped out so many women, like the egg part of women where they can't have babies anymore. None of them are fertile. So basically this book just deals with her trying to live in this society, and you also get flashbacks in this book of her living life before all of this happened, before this new law was forced that women are basically property to men. Oh, it's gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching. But I feel like this is a book that people should probably read more of because it's just a very interesting subject to read about, and I feel like more people should read about it. So there you have it. Those are all 7 books that I read in the month of January, and I'm quite happy with this number. It puts me quite a high start for the rest of the reading year for me. And let me know down below if you have read any of these books or what your favorite book was this month. I would love to know and maybe check it out. Anyways, thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all soon with a new video. Bye!